Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, boa tarde. Welcome all to our fourth webinar session on virtual exchange. I'm Maria Leonor Maia, President of FAUBAI, Brazilian Association for International Education, an association with gathers over 220 higher education institutions from all regions of Brazil. One of our aims is to promote the internationalization of Brazilian higher education institutions. It's our pleasure to have each of you here with us in our virtual Wednesday webinar session. Today, we have the presentation of 3 international centers of a virtual exchange, unities which have expertise on virtual exchange, to discuss emailing on how to engage, how to make connections, on how to build alliances. I mean, what we bring today is one more step to put forward virtual exchange initiatives. For that, we welcome Mary Lou Forward from the State University of New York, which runs the Suny Coil Center, Gisele Morales Veloquio from Tecnológico de Monterrey, which runs the Global Classroom in Mexico, and Gianmario Bessana from the DePaul University, which runs the Global Learning Experience in the US. Our thanks to Mary Lou, Gisele, and Gianmario for accepting our invitation. Thanks also to Brené Zikma, which is our moderator. She is our executive director, and José Celso Freire Jr., who is our organizer of the seminar, and he's the CEO of UNESP. Gianmario, Gisele, and Mary Lou have been at the FAUBAI conference before, so they know a little bit about Brazil. They were working with Brazil on virtual mobility. And I'd like to let know our members that FAUBAI is in conversation with the 3 organizations to keep working together and to develop further our partnership so as to offer some support to our members. So for those of you who were not able to attend the last 3 Wednesday webinars, they were recorded and are already available at the FAUBAI website. So thanks to all of you who were with us in this Wednesday, and I wish each of you a great webinar. Brené, please take the floor.
Thank you. Hello, you all. Welcome to the 4th FAUBAI BRaVE webinar. I will just present some general orientations. First of all, the learning outcomes. The idea is well, at the end of the webinar, how to engage and motivate instructors, professors, how to prepare instructors to participate in this virtual exchange, how to build alliances with university services, and how to connect with the institutional internationalization strategy. And the speakers, please also, we can just, because, yes, the speakers will move from these 5 topics during their presentations. Please, the next one. And questions can be submitted in the Q&A area. And please in English, because I'm not translator. It will be difficult for me to translate from Portuguese or from other languages. Selected questions will be answered at the end of all presentations. And as Maria Leonor Nona told you, the slides and the recording of the webinar will be made available on the FAUBAI website. And I really want to thank again Gisele, Mary Lou, and Gianmario for accepting FAUBAI's invitation. And now I would like to give the floor to Mary Lou Forward to start the 4th FAUBAI BRaVE webinar. Please, Mary Lou, the virtual floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction, and so pleased to be here with all of you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I represent Suny, the State University of New York Collaborative Online Learning Center, which is Coil. You probably have heard of the Suny Coil Center. Could we have the next slide, please? Just a little more introduction to what Suny Coil is and what it is that we do. We believe that that virtual exchange is an excellent way to both internationalize an institution, but also to give people the opportunity to connect as individuals across cultures, across distance, and across difference. So we endeavor to provide resources, support, and professional network to allow people to adopt a virtual exchange, to become virtual exchange professionals, and to be able to manage this effectively at their institutions. The next slide, please. The State University of New York is a large system of institutions across the state of New York in the United States. There are 64 separate institutions that make up Suny, and the Suny Coil Center is part of the Suny System Office of Global Affairs, which means that we don't work with one particular institution. We work with any Suny institution that is interested in adopting Coil and virtual exchange. We also work with campuses around the world, which includes the rest of the United States and, of course, other countries. We have a global partner network that right now consists of 57 institutions from 26 countries all around the world. And these are people who partner with Suny schools, but also who partner with each other and get support from the Suny network to be able to implement virtual exchange. So I'm going to leave this now, I believe, to Gian Mario to introduce to Paul.
Thank you, Mary Lou. I'm Gian Mario Bazzana from DePaul University in Chicago. Also, next slide, please. DePaul is a private institution located in Chicago, Illinois. We have about 22,000 students, at least a third of whom are first-generation college students, and a large group of whom come from the lower end of the socioeconomic stratum. As a result, typically about only 5% of our students have the possibility to study abroad. Next slide. So in 2013, we started a university-wide program in virtual exchange, supporting professors to partner with institutions across the world to offer to the largest possible number of our students the possibility to engage in intercultural, international, content-based experiences. And you can see in the map, as of this past term, we've implemented about 136. That number should now probably be 150 if we count this last term courses with virtual exchange projects, working with partners in 29 countries. And it's a pleasure to be a guest of FAUBAI, because Brazil has been a great partner in virtual exchange. Several institutions in Brazil have worked with us, as you can see from the map, in different disciplines. We're also very proud and happy that this year our Global Learning Experience program, which is our term for virtual exchange, has been recognized by NAFSA with the Spotlight Senator Paul Simon Award for Campus Internationalizations, and we're very, very proud of that. And I'm giving it now to Giselle.
Thank you, Gian Mario and Marilu. I'm glad to participate also. Thank you, FAUBAI, Renee also, and Maria Leonor for putting all this together. Yes, from Tec de Monterrey, we are launching the past couple of years this Global Classroom Initiative. Tec de Monterrey has been the #1 private university in Mexico. Well, we have over 90,000 students in our 26 campuses, and since the very beginning, it was we had a strong commitment to build an international strategy that allows our students to have these international experiences. And so far, 58% of our students can graduate participating in this international experience around the world, building alliances with more than 600 institutions so our students could participate. And in the next slide, you can see that because of this international strategy was important for mobility, it was also clear that we had to strengthen our internationalization at home strategy as well. And that's why in 2018, we started with a couple of pilot projects for virtual exchange in a global classroom initiative with Coil. And so far, we have over 30 courses linked with other courses in different institutions, participating 26 of our professors with 39 partners and 15 different countries, allowing more than 1,500 of our students to experience what a global classroom with Coil is, so they can enrich their learning journey during their university. Marley, if you want to present next.
Great, thank you. So we're going to move on to talk a little bit about how we have approached engaging and motivating instructors. And we'll be doing this by introducing the topic and then explaining how each one of our organizations approaches the topic. So for the Suny Coil Center, as I mentioned before, we work for the system of the State University of New York. So we don't work with a particular institution and their particular faculty. Instead, we work with the institutions to support them in recruiting and engaging their faculty. So a lot of what we do is to run workshops, to hold online meetings. We have webinars every month on different topics that are specifically aimed at faculty to become engaged, but also at the point people on campus. So the people who we call coordinators, Coil coordinators, who are working to make sure Coil becomes part of the teaching and learning experience at their institution. We have monthly meetings with those people. We also have webinars specifically for Coil coordinators, as well as webinars on different topics for faculty on things like classroom management or how to facilitate cross-cultural learning online. This is in addition to the training that we offer that we'll talk about in a minute. In addition to that, we try to provide our campuses with materials that they can use to do outreach to their campuses. And we talk about best practices around this. So for example, we would send them social media postings, we'll send them posters that they can put up around campus. When we have webinars, we will talk about going to departmental meetings, for example, to do outreach, to do asset mapping on your campus, to figure out where your strengths are and where your allies are, and how to build on that level of people you already know to get to the people you don't know, so that you can make sure all faculty on the campus know that this is available, understand how it can be incorporated in their classes, and begin to see the benefits of it. To you, John Mario.
Thank you, Mary Lou. DePaul, so when you think about engaging the professors, there are several different channels that we think we should operate on. The first one is information. Professors who've never done this hear about the idea, but they've never seen an example. They never talked to another professor who's done it. So there's some educational component that needs to take place. And we do this with virtual info sessions that we run every term. So every term there's 1 hour long, usually over lunchtime, so that even the professors who are really busy can sit in front of their computer and participate in a Zoom session in which they start to learn a little bit about what the pedagogy is about, and they see a couple of examples explained in detail, and sometimes it's their first contact. As Mary Lou mentioned, we also do visits to departments. When the departments get together for their regular department meeting, we ask for 5 or 10 minutes of their time, and we go and we bring materials and we do like a very short introduction. If we have specific examples from the discipline of the department, it's very important for the professors to see details of a project in their specific disciplines. Also, the visits to department are very targeted. It's a group of people who are all sharing the same disciplinary background, and they're typically very fertile. We also rely on our internal media. We have a daily email blast message that goes out to all the members of the university. It's called Newsline Daily. And periodically we insert a piece of information or a description of a project, a particularly catchy or good project, so that the virtual exchange team stays in the consciousness of the professor. And then for the ones who step forward and want to get engaged, we continue to motivate them with financial incentives. For the first time that they implement the course, they can receive a mini grant to travel and visit the partner, so that's also an incentive. And we also offer support for disciplinary conferences. For example, a political scientist who wants to present at a political science conference on a theme related to a virtual exchange project, we provide support for that too. But probably on the initial moment of engaging and motivating, information, communication. The more often we are in front of the professors who are busy doing a million things, so the more often, repeatedly, we are in front of them, the more productive it is for us. Giselle?
Thank you. Yes, at the beginning, to offer institutional support is very important to start this kind of initiatives. From the Vice Rectory of International Affairs, there's a team of 4 global classroom coordinators that can give some assistance to the professors during the whole process, and that it was very important, especially with the first professors that raised their hand when they wanted to participate, to be able to know that there was someone who's going to be helping them to find, even from finding the partner to the whole designing of activities, or if they have questions, or if there's something, an incident comes up, but someone else can help also to fix that issue. And then when those professors participated, of course, when they started sharing their experiences with other colleagues, that was also something that helped us to engage and motivate even more professors to participate, explaining them how to integrate these experiences in different disciplines, or even interdisciplinary topics, how they can engage in this global classroom experience. What's very important, the student testimonials are also very powerful tool to engage and motivate our professors. Hearing from the students' perspective how they learn or enrich the content of the course, or they feel the benefit from this kind of experiences, it's also something very important. The opportunity to have networking with colleagues around the world is also very, very attractive to engage and motivate professors. The fact that they can even build stronger relationships with partners, so they can probably start writing an article together, or probably even research opportunities. It's something that really engage professors. And other kind of incentives that we have offered, for example, for students, we offer digital badges, and this is something that even for professors is quite attractive, the fact that they can tell their students that for successfully participating in this experience, they can not only obtain the grade of the course and the credits for this, they also obtain this digital badge. It's something very good for the students and the professors. And we are working from the Vice Rectory of International Affairs to extend to the professors also like a certificate of internationalization, so that they can use as evidence for the faculty development career. Those are the main motivators that we are using right now. Mary Lou, going back to you.
Excellent, thank you. So we wanted to also talk about how we prepare instructors to incorporate virtual exchange into their classes and into their projects or into their programs. So Suny Coil runs a full professional development suite of offerings. They run pretty much monthly, we offer a package of 2 basic courses that are 3-week-long workshops. They're mostly asynchronous with weekly synchronous meetings. The first one is called Foundations, and that introduces faculty members to the concepts around Coil, to the essentials that they need to be successful in virtual exchange, and to the considerations that they need to really take into account as they begin to approach this, in incorporating this into their class. We run partnering events then so that people can find partners. And then the second workshop is what we call Coil Design, and that over 3 weeks. Professors come with their partners, and they actually at the end walk away with a syllabus and an online course shell that they could use for a Coil collaboration. In addition to that, we have this resource that's available to everyone on the web. It's What is Coil? You can see the address there on the slide. And that is just a high-level walkthrough of what Coil is, some of the considerations for bringing it into your teaching and learning, and some resources that are available, such as sample syllabi. The next slide shows the workshop schedule that we have for next year, so you can see the extent of the offerings that we have, how frequently they're offered, and a brief description of what we do for these workshops. This is available to anyone interested in doing virtual exchange or Coil. It's not just limited to Suny or to the Suny network, but anybody who's interested in joining these workshops is more than welcome to join us for those. Jean Mario.
Thank you, Mary Lou. For the people who are listening and who are thinking of starting, I think, both Mary Lou and I and Giselle give for granted that you appreciate the importance of preparing the professors to do virtual exchange. But I would like to stress that virtual exchange is an amazing pedagogy, but you cannot just jump in without any preparation. There are so many things that can go wrong, and so many things that need attention from an instructor, a professor that has developed a set of deep understanding and awareness, skills in understanding and awareness of the pedagogy to be able to be successful. So I couldn't stress more the importance of the professional development opportunities for professors who want to do this. Similar to what Suny does, we also have a professional development opportunity for our faculty. It's a workshop. It's a 3-week-long workshop divided into 4 modules. It's mostly completely asynchronous with 2 synchronous meetings spaced out throughout the 3 weeks. And as Mary Lou said, even ours is open to other institutions. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to us. We can discuss the modalities for you to participate, for your faculty to participate. We are under no illusion that just because the professor participates in a 3-week workshop, all of a sudden they are master, they become wizards of virtual exchange. So we accompany the professors with instructional designers who continue to work with them as they move on after the workshop to develop their courses and to implement them in order to help them to select the right technology, make sure that the learning outcomes of the experiences are properly explicited and aligned with the activities, and also take care of all the technological needs. Giselle?
Thank you. Yes, also from Tec de Monterrey and this Global Classroom Initiative, it is very important to prepare our professors. At the beginning, we just do informative sessions. We have right now we have an open call for interest with our professors at Tec de Monterrey, and we offer some informative sessions just to give them a general idea of what the Global Classroom Initiative is and how we can, from the Vice-Rectory of International Affairs, offer support during this kind of experiences for the professors. Of course, once they mention that they want to participate and they have some specific questions on how to integrate in this kind of experiences in their courses, we have also some individual sessions where we go through understanding the objectives of the courses, exactly what the professors would like to do. So then we can start to find the ideal partner with our colleagues at Suny Coil Center or other universities like DePaul that are doing also this kind of virtual exchange initiatives. We all, as I mentioned before, we started last year, and so we offer a workshop in our educational innovation conference just last December, where we address different topics with more, go deeply into what Coil is. We are thinking also to invite, we've also had an instructional designer explaining how to design these activities so they can meet and balance the goals of each of the courses that are participating in a collaboration, also about the tools, the technological tools that can be used. And we also are also thinking to have some webinars during probably this summer for our tech professors and their partners, so that we can talk about these topics, and also how to build stronger partnerships so that we have continuity in this kind of collaborations, mostly with asynchronous activities, as Jean-Marie and Marilu mentioned, but also to have some of synchronous sessions so we can answer their questions and we can interact, or even have some professors that already have their experience to share it with other professors.
Great. Thank you. So we wanted to talk a bit about building those alliances with university services. Jean-Mario mentioned and Giselle mentioned instructional designers and the importance of making sure you have people on your campus who are able to support your professors who are doing this kind of work, and to help your institutions see that this is a really key and important thing for your students and for your professors to be able to engage internationally. Again, because we work at the system level and not at a particular institution, we provide services that complement campus level services, so that complement the services that were talked about earlier, such as instructional designers, bringing in distance education professionals, those kinds of people that you want to have as your allies on your campus to be able to make this successful. The services that the Coil Center offers are really into these kind of 4 areas. We try to help make it more easy for campuses to adopt virtual exchange by offering trainings and workshops and examples of virtual exchange. We help cultivate this professional community of practice, which is really international in nature. And as new people come into the professional community of practice, there are experienced people there who are able to help mentor and answer their questions. So as we do these webinars that we talked about earlier, say in classroom management, there are faculty members who have done Coil many times who are able to talk about the tricks and tips that they use to be able to manage an online international exchange for people who are just beginning. We also have a lot of resources that are available, including a faculty guide, which many of you probably have already seen. There are also resources around evaluation and assessment, which is one of the things that as Jean-Mario said, we kind of take for granted that you realize the importance of that, but it is very important to consider what it is you'd like to assess when going into your virtual exchange, both on the level of the course itself, but also for your institution. How do you see this fitting into your overall institutional goals, your goals for internationalization, and how are you going to assess that success? And then finally, we help make those partnering connections. We have what we call partnering fairs, which people around the world can come to and talk about what they're looking for in a Coil partner. We also have a bulletin where faculty submit a paragraph or 2 about what they're looking for to do for a Coil collaboration, what kinds of partnerships they're looking for. We have listservs. We offer faculty recognition, which is part of supporting faculty on campus, is really giving them the recognition that they're doing something interesting, something new, something innovative, and something impactful for the students. So I'd like to pass it on to Jean-Marie to talk more about the institutional perspective on this.
Thank you, Mary Lou. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach here. I'm putting myself into the shoes of a senior international officer, the director of an international office at an institution who wants to start to do virtual exchange. Virtual exchange is a pedagogy that reaches out to other areas, not just within the international office, and it's crucial that you establish alliances and relationships with your colleagues that are in charge of these other groups. So the scheme that you see on the slide, try to summarize quickly the most important components. So the first one in our case is the Center for Teaching and Learning. You've heard from me, from Mary Lou, and from Giselle the importance of training the faculty. The professors, most likely in your institution, there's already a group of people who offer workshops, training, other kind of support for different kind of pedagogies in your institution. So there's no reason for you to invent something new, right? But reach out, establish a relationship, make sure that you gain their support and their trust, and that they become a partner for you in trying to institutionalize virtual exchange. In our case, the Center for Teaching and Learning does both the training and also the support with instructional design. This is the same team in the Paul's case. The second piece is technology. Who's the person in your institution who's in charge of IT? That person needs to become your friend, because in order to have a successful virtual exchange initiative, you will need technological support. In some cases, you may need special rooms with special equipment, but not necessarily. But in any case, you need to make sure that all the technological pieces that need to be in place for your professors to be able to do this are in place without barriers, without problems. Typical example is if you have a person who is responsible over the security, how would they feel if all of a sudden people from outside your institutions enter your learning management system or start using other tools? You need to have those conversations before, instead of then all of a sudden somebody, sounding the alarm that you're trying to do something outside the ordinary and the boundaries of what's allowed. The other piece is curricular control. You will, as you start the virtual exchange initiative, you will introduce new pedagogy that will change slightly what the professors are doing in their class, because all of a sudden they have these collaborative international online projects. Who has the authority to say, yes, you can do this in the classes that do mechanical engineering or dentistry or biology? Who controls that? You need to have that very clear and make sure that you have the conversations that, again, then don't give rise to surprises. All of a sudden you have a dean or a vice provost or a vice president somewhere, waking up that all of a sudden they have 10 faculty members that are doing these international things that they don't know anything about, and who authorizes this. And so, that's another conversation. And obviously, you need to have the support and the friendship of your university leadership. Who are the leaders at your university who are more sensitive to your work as a senior international officer, who may come on board with this new initiative and become your supporters and your partners as you implement this? So the Center for Teaching and Learning, the IT, and the Curriculum Control are horizontal relationship for you. University leadership is a vertical relationship, but all of these alliances need to be in place before you can safely launch an institution-wide virtual exchange project. Giselle.
Well, yes, in Tec de Monterrey as well, as we had this kind of situation where we had to identify and align goals with other university divisions and services. we are still working on building those alliances, especially with the schools and the academic and educational innovation vice-rectory, especially with the divisions of faculty development, technologies for education, and educational innovation. Because we share these goals, we know we can work in synergy towards those goals, like designing and implementing activities related to professional practice for students, development of disciplinary transversal competences, the use of technology to enrich the learning experience, also that global classroom could serve for educational innovation projects for professors, and having professors participating in professional collaboration networks with peers from other institutions are just some of those goals that we identified since the very beginning that we could address with global classroom from these three main divisions at Tec de Monterrey. We are working still with the faculty development. They help us to extend the invitation for this call that I mentioned that we have open for the fall semester. They are also helping us to guide us into the incentives for professors in that certificate of internationalization that I mentioned. So that is part of the evidence, and then recognize the efforts that all our professors do when they work in these collaborations. We have the support from the educational innovation since the beginning. Even the first two pilots, we did it with the digital education courses, and also to know that the experts on the technologies for education in our institution can guide us to find the right tools, and also to train our professors in the use of these technologies is also some of the best alliances that we have made so far in our institution. But as I said, we are still working on building more alliances, and so that we can extend this initiative to our 26 campuses. We're having more professors working with these virtual exchange collaborations. Marilu.
Wonderful. So we wanted to cover the last topic, which is alignment with your institutional strategy. And this is important because, as John Mario was just talking about, we wanted to make sure that you understand the importance of positioning virtual exchange within the overall strategy of your institution and seeing it as part of what you do with internationalization, but also that it supports a lot of other important things that your university is trying to do. So we talk about Coil, for example, aligning with a number of important institutional goals. And yes, internationalization is one very important goal of institutions, but equity and access is also very important to institutions, ensuring that all students have similar access to opportunities. And in international education, we know that physical exchange is often limited to a small part of the student body that can either afford to study abroad or that have the resources to be able to make it possible for them. Virtual exchange brings equity and access to every student and every professor at your institution. So this is a big one. This is important for you to talk about with those people who are concerned with equity and access on your campus. It's also an active pedagogy. So John Mario was talking about the Center for Teaching and Learning. You can bring this to your Center for Teaching and Learning and talk about it as a high impact practice, as a way to get students and faculty members involved in teaching actively, in getting students involved and motivated, because Coil is very project-based. It gets students fully involved as full participants in their education and not just as passive receivers of content, which is still present in many of our institutions. It's also obviously 21st century skills development. As we've all had to learn in the past few months, online interaction, online team building, having an online presence, being able to effectively work in a virtual environment is very important for now and in the future. So having students being able to develop these relationships with their peers in other places, to be able to successfully have discussions and execute and develop projects together is an important skill for them to have for the workforce. And of course, the student-centeredness of this. When Coil is done well, having students giving students the opportunity to lead in their education and take an active role in developing and shaping what they do is a wonderful outcome for Coil. So thinking about all of these things as you talk with people on your campus, as you look at your written institutional strategy and figure out how am I going to get, for example, my chancellor's office or provost's office or deans to support this. Look at what it is that they're interested in, and you will find that virtual exchange often overlaps with different interests on campus, and you can go and talk with them and develop your ally network by approaching different people and what it is that they're interested in. I think Jean-Mario is going to talk a little bit about how he has specifically done that at DePaul.
So thank you, Mary Lou. If you look to the right side of the slide here, you see two pictures that apparently have nothing to do with virtual exchange, but I'm going to explain why I put those pictures there. The first is a picture of a pirate, which is the expression that our common friend John Rubin, who used to be a Suny, uses to describe individual faculty member, individual professors who start doing virtual exchange in your institution here and there, but with no central coordination and no support. The other picture instead is a picture of a structured or very orderly supported approach, a team approach. So how do you go from the pirate situation to a structured, orderly, supported, sustainable way of supporting virtual exchange? Connecting with the institutional internationalization strategy is the answer here. And the first thing that I think it was extraordinarily important for us to do, and Mary Lou touched upon it coming from a different angle, is making sure that there's complete alignment on why. Why is your institution considering virtual exchange? And connecting this to the particular institutional mission, to the ethos and the values of your institution in such a way that the virtual exchange initiative resonates with the leaders of the institution because it touches and it intersects the mission, the ethos, and the values of the university. Exactly as Mary Lou mentioned, for Suny, for DePaul as well, equity is a major fundamental value that we try to cultivate across everything we do, and equity in exposure to high impact practices that have to do with intercultural communication, intercultural experiences, and international experiences takes place easily and very well in virtual exchange. So that's one issue that resonates with everybody. The other one is the fact that our students, as I mentioned at the beginning, many of whom come from lower socioeconomic strata of society, look at the DePaul education as a way to go out in the world, in the workforce, and find a good job. And virtual exchange offers the students the possibility to acquire virtual global collaboration skills, the ability to collaborate virtually in an intercultural context, which are a set of skills that employers in a global city like Chicago, where we are located, are beginning to look at with great interest. So once these two things are shared, were shared with the leadership and say, hey, we're hitting equity and we're hitting acquisition of new skills that turn into potential for employment, bingo, then the leadership was on board. And it's aligned with a set of institutional priority that go beyond internationalization, right? The acquisition of new skills that lead to employability go beyond internationalization. And you create new allies within your institution. The other thing that I think is extraordinarily important to do is to make very clear with your partners who are supporting traditional mobility what the relationship is between virtual exchange and traditional mobility. We are all in this very extraordinary moment in which, because of COVID and the pandemic, traditional mobility is disappearing from our near future. And there are many institutions who are thinking right now, oh, we can't do traditional study abroad. Oh, then we will do virtual exchange instead. And I personally think that that's a very dangerous narrative, because traditional study abroad and virtual exchange are different. They're both pieces of an internationalization strategy. Virtual exchange addresses internationalization at home, as Giselle has mentioned, and allows the students to acquire this new set of skills that I just mentioned, but not clarifying what the relationship is between virtual exchange and traditional mobility is dangerous. You need to sit down with your friends and study abroad and have a conversation and clarify what the roles are. And then it's not an either or. Virtual exchange is not an alternative to study abroad, but it's complementary to study abroad. It can actually work together with study abroad programs to make them even richer. And then if you're lucky, you can not just connect with an existing strategic plan that is listing in writing somewhere officially the priorities of your institution, but if you're so lucky to be right now at the moment in which you're developing a new strategic plan, or plant the seeds for the next strategic plan so that virtual exchange will be embedded explicitly in the strategic plan. We had the great fortune of having started in 2013, and a couple of years later, we started the development of the new strategic plan, and virtual exchange was already visible enough. And with the work of having established a common why and having brought virtual exchange to the surface and given it visibility in the context of the institutional priority, that the work to create a new strategic plan embraced virtual exchange, and is now mentioned explicitly in the plan, in the strategic plan, as one of the priority. And that, I think, is a great thing that you should try to strive for. Giselle.
Thank you. Sure. I think not just connecting with the internationalization strategy, but also with our Tech 21 educational model and our strategic plan. Since we want to offer new opportunities for our students, even before COVID, we thought about it. We knew that there has something to be done to address the situations where we can offer to more students the opportunity to have international experiences with meaningful learning. And we also find out that there are other goals that we can address as part of our internationalization strategy that complements our Tech 21 educational model was trying to make an effort on, like global learning, exposing the students to real problems in an international context, allowing the development of skills and promoting diversity, inclusion, the appreciation of their cultures and the other cultures, promoting their and developing their skills as global citizens, especially with an emphasis on addressing sustainable development goals. Also, one that really connected with our educational model and with the strategic plan was the fact that we wanted our students to have more collaborations in a digital environment, using technology to connect our students, and also in a multicultural environment is something that really helped us to, since the beginning when we started promoting this initiative in our institution, that the support from other divisions and the leaders of the institutions to find that this kind of collaborations could be built strong learning process in our students as well.
Thank you once again. You did it in a very, very professional way. We knew that. 50 minutes, it's perfect. We have time for questions, answers, and discussions. It's good. I would like to start presenting you, especially for Suny and the poll. What financial incentives do your institutions offer to your faculty, or to engage them and motivate them to do Coil or virtual exchange? Marilu, can you please? Or Gianmario, you can decide, please.
I can go first if you want. Our professors can submit a formal proposal that specifies what they want to do in their project with their project rules, and we have a template for the proposal. And a group of faculty, a group of professors, a committee, reviews these proposals, and the ones that meet the standards and are approved received a grant that can be up to $3,500 that the professor can spend to travel themselves, to go to visit the partner, or to invite the partner to come to Chicago to further have discussions and sit down and work out the details. In some cases, it also works out that they can travel when one of the classes is already in session, so the one professor can meet the other students before they actually start the virtual exchange process. And then for professors who do the first virtual exchange course, as an incentive and as a motivation to do the same project again, we have a small amount of money that we give them if they repeat the same project the second time and the third time and a fourth time.
Great, thanks. From the SUNY side, we actually don't have a financial incentive program for our faculty members to do virtual exchange. We have received grants in the past that have allowed us to bring faculty to different locations for in-person training, and occasionally also provided additional funding for them to visit their partners in different places in the world. But we don't offer any particular grants to individuals. There are some grants that support virtual exchange and incentives for faculty to do that, notably from the Stevens Initiative, and also 100,000 Strong in the Americas strongly supports institutions that want to do virtual exchange. So we also support our institutions in helping to get those grants that they can then use with their faculty as well.
Rene.
Yes, my micro.
Okay.
Giselle, want to add something? Tech de Monterrey, do you?
We don't, right now we don't offer financial incentives for professors, but we are building this alliance with faculty development. So as I mentioned, if they get this evidence of these projects that they are doing collaboratively with peers, international peers, and they can use this evidence to move forward in their faculty development career, at some point they could of course get some economical reward or recognitions by doing this kind of projects, but just to participate, we don't offer right now any kind of financial incentives.
Okay, and another very specific question. How many coordination support staff do you need per Coil project? Can one coordinator realistically coordinate 10 operating partnerships, 20, for example?
I can take a stab at this. So it depends on exactly what, from my point of view, what exactly the work of the coordinator is. What we're seeing is the development of this new, and I see my friend Stephanie is in the audience. This is a theme from FIU. This is a theme that is very dear to Stephanie. That we're seeing the emergence of this new professional profile of a Coil virtual exchange coordinator. And typically these individuals do partner matching and then some kind of individual support for each pair of faculty to lead them to the implementation. This second part, in our case at DePaul, is partially the work of the coordinator, but mostly the work of the instructional designers. And because we're fortunate to have a team of instructional designers that support the faculty, then this means that my coordinator, who's also in the audience right now, Rosie, she can handle a significant number of projects at the same time, but because she's not involved directly with the minutiae of each individual project. So I'm afraid I'm not answering really well the question because it depends on what exactly the responsibilities of the coordinator are.
Do you, any of you, want to add something?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think that you notice the Suny approach is that we've centralized the training and a fair bit of the support for getting faculty motivated and able to do Coil through the Coil Center. So we've centralized that at the system level, which means that the individual coordinators don't have to support faculty to do those things. And that we, as we work with campuses, talk to them about getting instructional designers involved, getting other folks involved who can support faculty to do different kinds of, or different aspects of the virtual exchange. So I would agree, we have some SUNY campuses where we've got 15 or 20 coils happening every semester, and one coordinator can support that. And we've got other campuses where they have less support from instructional designers or less buy-in from other people on their campus, and a coordinator is supporting 4 or 5 collaborations. So it really does depend on what your institution is able to offer in terms of support for the faculty members in general, and then what the role of the coordinator is in supporting those faculty.
It's the same from Tec de Monterrey. I completely agree on this. It depends on the role of each coordinator and how can they assist as many professors as we can. But building those alliances with instructional designers, that's why the importance, and we mentioned before that as the division that is leading the institution, these initiatives in the institution, needs to build some alliances to have more support from training, from instructional designers, for technologies to support the professors, and that could help us to scale this virtual exchange strategy in each institution.
Renee, if I may add one thing. So as you're thinking of implementing virtual exchange at the institutional level, you realize that there are pieces, the components that are involved in virtual exchange that someone at your institution is already doing. The tech piece, the technology piece, for example. Someone is for sure already supporting technology in the classroom for you. So instead of putting on your coordinator the responsibility of that piece, strike a deal with the office that is doing the technology so that they can incorporate the virtual exchange support as part of what they do already. So the tech piece is an easy one. Giselle was mentioning, and Mary Lou too, the training piece. You already have people who train faculty to do other kind of pedagogies, broker the incorporation of the virtual exchange as part of what they do. And that's another piece of responsibility off the shoulder of your coordinator, so that your coordinator can put more of their energy in the partnership building and supporting, and in fostering the matchmaking between the professor, which is it's the most delicate piece of the enterprise, we find.
There's another question related to what is the minimum, if there is a minimum staff number, and which competences they must have. And I would like to ask you another question related to this one. Which competences should an instructional designer have? And if you can, please maybe explain a little bit what this designer is.
I'll let Mary Lou start.
Sure. So the first question are what are the qualities that the coordinator needs to have, and the second is about instructional designers. That's right.
And also, if there is a minimum number of staff number to put up a program.
Okay. So there's no magic formula, let's say that, and that it depends, again, on what your objectives is. So Jean-Mario said earlier that it's really important to understand or to have everybody be in agreement about why you're doing this. And so if this is an institutional initiative, that the institution says we want to do this, then why you're doing this becomes an important question. And if it's at the appropriate level, you can drive the involvement of a number of individuals to support this. As Jean-Mario said, the more people you have on board that can help the coordinator with the elements necessary, the training, the finding a partner, the supporting classroom management, the helping the selection of technology, understanding institutional policies and how they would apply to selection of technology, for example. All of those elements are really important. If it's an institutional initiative and you can form a committee to answer some of those questions, to bring on board the correct people, then you may have a team of 5 people on your campus that are able to support, maybe more. It depends, again, on where this is coming from. For a number of institutions, it's a single professor that says, I want to try this, in which case they go to, say, their educational technology office or their international education office and say, I want to try this. Can I try this? Will you support me? It starts off then being a support team of 1, and that person needs to figure out who they can go to and what resources they have at their disposal to help support. Ideally, we say it should be somebody from ed technology, an instructional designer. It should be someone from the Teaching and Learning Center to think about pedagogy, and it should be somebody from the International Education Office to support internationalization of the curriculum. For the question of instructional designers or educational technologists, within the context of education in the US, instructional technology is a discipline that is really involved in how do we bring technology into the classroom to support learning objectives. In the case of virtual exchange, very clearly, we need technology to support the kinds of exchanges we want to have. The choices made around technology are sometimes driven by institutional policy, what the institution will or won't permit students to use, but hopefully are driven by the learning objectives of the exchange. And that is also going to vary significantly. For example, across time zone, across languages, do you need translation support? And also across disciplines, what kinds of technology best supports the work that you want to do in your virtual exchange? Having an instructional designer or an educational technologist who is well-versed on technology and how that fits in, but also well-versed in how to put a course online, how to bring online pedagogy into the part of the course that will be your virtual exchange. That's the role that they take on. And having somebody who's really specialized in that is helpful. As Jean-Marie was saying, you have a teaching and learning center. They're used to teaching faculty. They understand about pedagogy. Educational technologists or instructional designers understand online pedagogy, and they're really great allies to have with this.
Do you want to add something?
If the spirit of the first part of the question, there was the minimum number of staff that you need to run this, if I can rephrase the question, is what's the minimum number of new people that you need to add to run this? Then my answer is 1. The role of the coordinator is something that didn't exist before in your institutions. The other pieces that Mary Lou put on the table, 1 person at least from the training team, 1 person at least from the technology team, my suggestion continues to be, and she's right, you need to have at least 1 ally in each of these pieces, but they may already be there. You may have to negotiate with the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning to have 1 of their staff start learning and being dedicated to virtual exchange initiative, and the same for the tech. The person who's the new person is the coordinator, and you need at least 1.
Yes, I guess from our experience at Tec de Monterrey, as we are assuming the role of coordinators, this kind of experiences, we had to get some training ourselves into the Coil methodology. We have to train ourselves also with some of the tools that we can recommend. We are not experts in technology, but we can recognize some of the tools that could very well help to these professors to have synchronous and asynchronous collaborations with other institutions. We also have to be very familiar with our educational model as well, and to take some training with our online pedagogy strategies so that we can help professors that have never taught anything online before have some sort of ideas and guidance from ourselves as coordinators in this process. But yes, again, that's how Tec de Monterrey has done it, and we are building more alliances so that we can have more support from training from other experts divisions in our institution.
Okay, another question. If you have, in order to support development and expansion of virtual exchange, have any institution figured out a way to generate revenue for this?
If I understand the question correctly, then the answer for us is yes, because we offer the training program, our workshop, for a fee to institutions that are not necessarily partnering with us. If a Brazilian faculty member has a default partner and they want to do a project together, then they participate in the training for no fee. But if there's an institution in Colombia, for example, that has 15 professors who need to be trained and they want to use our training, then we charge a fee, and that for us has been a little bit of a revenue generating. Not huge, but some.
From Tec de Monterrey, we haven't generated revenue on this kind of strategy. I don't know if Marilu wants to add something on this.
I'm not aware of an institution that uses virtual exchange as a way to generate revenue in and of itself. I know that they have used it, as I mentioned before, as ways to attract grants to the institution, which brings in a different type of revenue. And we've seen that across a number of Suny institutions, but also institutions outside of Suny that have embraced Coil. So it's not a replacement for study abroad revenues that some institutions have come to rely on as ways to fund the international offices. That's not, again, kind of going back to where virtual exchange sits in your institutionalization strategy, or in your institution's strategy for internationalization. This is a different place. This is internationalization at home. This is about equity and access. It's not necessarily about funding for the International Programs Office. So I'm not aware of any institution that charges a fee, for example, to bring Coil into their classes.
Great. A question from the University of San Diego. They are looking to start Coil activities with faculties with really very strong international experience and partners. They have already strong partners and international experience. But if they don't have a lot of time for training, do you have any important tips?
Don't do it. It may sound harsh, but or if you do few, like 1-2 courses, so that you can support the faculty members, the professor, as they're trying to do it as best as you can. In our experience, lack of training on basic fundamental things can lead to horrible experiences for everybody, for the professors on both sides and for the students on both sides. And I think both Giselle and Marilu probably can give you their list of the simplest, silly things that can go wrong and will go wrong if the professors have seen no examples before. They've not sat and thought about easy things. Like, you know, one of our favorite examples, I think, is calendar coordination as far as holidays are concerned. And you may think that this is obvious. Well, maybe obvious to you, but sometimes it's not obvious to your professors. If they've never worked with anybody in Mexico, for example, in San Diego, they probably have, but you know, if they never worked with somebody in Mexico, Holy Week, forget it. You know, our friend Mexicans are out celebrating during Semana Santa, and what do? If you have a project that is 6 weeks long and you lose a week, right? Our friends Brazilians, Carnival, forget it. You know, they're just not there, right? They're out celebrating. And you may think that, well, but isn't that obvious? Wouldn't they have talked about it? No, they don't. If they haven't set through a process that made them think, and I'm using a very silly example, but there are more, you know, more pedagogically cogent examples, like, you know, make sure that the learning outcomes are clearly spelled and accessible in a common place to all the students, and the expectations are clear. Again, not rocket science, but when you start adding all the things that need to be clear to the professors, you know, it may become onerous and complicated.
I think that we do need some training at the beginning. It's very important. I agree on this. I think as an institution that wants to start with this kind of virtual exchange strategy, you have to start with perhaps the champions, some professors that already have some sort of experience doing collaborations online or doing online teaching, and they already know some of the main or basic aspects to address in an online collaboration. But yeah, I will recommend to start again. That's what we did in Tec de Monterrey. Started with digital education courses with professors that were teaching online, and we had only a couple of pilots so that we could understand, as the Vice Rector of International Affairs, understand what it was required, who else we need to come on board with this initiative, and to get ourselves, while we're doing those pilot projects as coordinators, we were taking training ourselves and understanding the whole process. And I think if you start with a couple of projects with the champions professors in your institution that already has some experience, might be the best way to start. But they will need some again, some workshops. We as Tec de Monterrey, we immediately approached the Suny Coil Center. They have already wonderful webinars and workshops, and that's something that they offer to the partners. So, and this is also a way that they can get some training from the experts while they're preparing to start the first couple of pilot projects.
Okay. And another question, how institutions' interest on working with your centers, how can they contact you, and how can they, regarding the Brazilian university, higher education institutions, through FAUBAI, we are starting discussions with the three colleagues really to be able to some special conditions and activities to work with your centers. But please, if they want to start working with you.
I put in the chat an email address of our GLE coordinator, and feel free to email her. Her name is Rosie. I put her email address in the chat. Feel free to reach out directly to her via email with you know, your information and what kind of conversation do you want to start with us, and we'll be happy to.
Yeah, same for us. I put in our general Coil information email, and we'd be happy to hear what it is that you're looking for.
I have also included in the chat the Tech Global Classroom site, so they can find the contact information from us, the coordination of Global Classroom initiative.
Okay, and from next week, our president will start discussing with our team, but with Professor Nana, discussing with you ways to provide opportunities to our members in FAUBAI. And a question from Osvaldo Sutki from Centro Paula Souza, you know him very well. How do you envision virtual exchange and distance education evolve in the future?
Osvaldo, that's a topic for a whole webinar on itself, I think. I really think the virtual exchange has been brought to the attention of so many institutions by the pandemic that I think we're going to see a shift in the way in which a lot of institutions approach internationalization, and particularly internationalization at home. The intersection, as I was addressing before, the relationship between virtual exchange and study abroad, I think is going to evolve significantly. Institutions like ours who have practiced virtual exchange for a while have seen already intersection of study abroad and virtual exchange. Like, you know, we have a couple of situations in which the faculty member does a Coil course during the semester, during the quarter for us, and then travels to the destination where the partner institution is. But they're not the majority of our project right now. I see in the future many institutions working more along this model. I don't know if this has happened in Brazil too, but in the States, we've seen a significant number, or in Mexico, for Giselle, we've seen a large number of organizations and providers already launching global internship opportunity, virtual global internship opportunities. We at DePaul now have 14 students this summer who are doing internships abroad, but virtually. And I see that also growing significantly. A very interesting question. I would love to discuss it further, but it's a hot topic. And I don't think that even when a vaccine for COVID will be found, I don't think that virtual exchange will go away. I really think that it's becoming a new tool in the drawer of tools of international education professionals.
Yeah, I would like to mention a program that we're putting on this summer I shouldn't say we're coordinating across the Suny system, which is focused on using Coil methodology in a slightly different way to directly connect students to community-based organizations and non-governmental organizations around the world to provide storytelling support for the kinds of work that these organizations are doing. It's called the Suny Coil Global Commons. It is focusing students through coursework on storytelling and on one of the Sustainable Development Goals, and then matching them with community-based organizations and non-governmental organizations around the world for project work. It is an extension of the Coil methodology. It's a little bit different because it's not collecting students to students, but rather students to organizations. And as we've been rolling this out, kind of furiously building it over the last few months, what we found is that we received response from students when we put the initial call for interest back. We had almost 600 students respond that they wanted to be involved. And we've opened enrollment, and we now have 150 students after 5 days of enrollment being opened. So what we're finding is that students want to be globally connected. They want to be involved. They want to do meaningful work that results in application of knowledge in new ways. They want to connect to people and they want to understand. but we also asked on our interest form how many of you either were planning to study abroad or have studied abroad, and only 15% said that they were interested in studying abroad. So we really believe that these virtual connections globally are so important for this idea of access and equity that we talked about. 15% of the students said that they were planning to study abroad, and yet we have all of this student interest in doing real international collaboration. So I would say that I see virtual exchange becoming more creative, becoming more important to institutions, and becoming something that students themselves will begin to demand. That we're kind of beyond the point where faculty members are going to be leading this, and we're starting to move into the time when students will be leading this demand.
I think there's a whole new territory to explore. I think there's, as Jean-Marie and Mary Lou mentioned, as universities are becoming more creative and creating more of this models that could provide more opportunities for our students to have a global learning experience using this digital environment. So I think that as the universities get strengthen their internationalization at home strategy, and again, not as an alternative, but as a complementary vision to help the students to develop new skills, they are getting more and more interested. Not just the professors, but the students are looking for this kind of experiences. So I guess that the universities will be, in the near future at least, will be trying to find new ways to provide these opportunities for our students, and combining mobility and virtual exchange as well.
Great, thank you. I think that we are well close to the end of the webinar, and it was really very, very useful and clear and complete. We are really very, very happy to have you with us, representatives from the very well-known and most important centers for virtual exchange. On behalf of FAUBAI board and Maria Leonor Maia, the president, she will take the floor in a few moments. We would like to thank again the speakers and the participants. We had 180 participants, and really very special thanks also to José Celso Freire Jr. Please, Celso, come in, please. We are waiting for you. Celso has co-organized and provided a backstage support to the FAUBAI BRaVE Virtual Exchange webinar series. Thank you, Celso. Thank you again. The aim of this webinar series was to offer the opportunity of knowing experience and possibilities of virtual exchange from specialists and institutions that have been doing this for many, many years. This is very important. It's not because of COVID. It's not because of this challenge times that we facing, but they have been doing this for many, many years. And the idea is to to invite new institutions to join forces. Oh, my phone. Sorry about that. Sorry. And to invite new institutions to join forces with them, with us, and to spread information about virtual exchange. In the 4 webinars, we had more than 950 live attendees, and this is very, very, we are very, very happy. And as you all know, the webinars, videos, and presentations are available, and this one will be available as well at the FAUBAI's website. Please, Nona.
Oh yeah, thank you, Mary Lou, thank you, Giselle and Gianmario, for shedding some light on the debate about virtual exchange. As I said in our first meeting, that what we are discussing about virtual exchange is not a replacement of presential classrooms to distance teaching and learning. It's not something provisory or emergential. It's something that allows a rather big number of students to acquire an international experience. And it has the value of access and equity, as was mentioned by all of you, and it has the potential to make a more structural changes in the way of teaching and learning for not only for the students, but also for the faculty members. Yeah, and I think that maybe the three key important words are training, 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 and coordinating and monitoring of the process, maybe. Because I think that, of course, that to have the support of the managers is the first basic condition, but it's not enough, it's not sufficient to run Coil courses. You have to train, you have to coordinate, and you have to monitor all the process. So for all of you, thank you very much. For all of the attendees, thank you very much for being this afternoon in Brazil with us. I would like also to thank René and José Celso Freire Jr. and also Unesp, who provided us with the platform, with this digital platform to run this series, and invited all of you for our next Wednesday, virtual Wednesday, when we are going to discuss with the huge, which is IAU, Adele IEAI, and Ola Killan from AISA. It's like a soup of letters. I don't know how to say in English that, but sopa de letrinhas. Who are going to be with us talking a little bit about what international education associations has to say to the attendance to the group about what the future of the international education. So for all of you, thank you very much. Hope to see you very soon. And bye-bye.
No, please, 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 just please take a moment to let us know how we did answering the evaluation form at the end of this event. It's very quickly, very easy, but please do it. It's very important for us. Thank you so much. See you next Wednesday. Have a nice and safe week. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you again.